Hi. So a friend of mine made me, at gunpoint, sit down and watch the Anita Sarkeesian video from XOXO. Notice there's no Y? I wonder if that's some kind of gender comment. How biased. So, even though he doesn't want me to, I feel the need to take it apart and look at it. I'm not going to intersperse sections of the video because I don't want a DMCA complaint. I'm just going to rewatch it again and record my comments as I go along. There'll probably be swearing. Quite a lot of it. Enjoy. Well, I mean, first up, does anyone else get this weird kind of evangelical tent revival meeting vibe coming off this thing? Standing ovation, the cheering. I mean, later on it gets even worse, but it really has this kind of creepy cult vibe to it. What is going on there? Ugh. Weird. See, I don't think we are in a paradigm shift. I think we're just in an audience shift, and that's largely just becoming wider and broader, whereas she seems to want to make it something else. I mean, what's inherently political about games? Fuck all. You can make games that address political points, but games themselves aren't. So what the fuck is she talking about? Something that really pisses me off is that there seems to be this kind of idea that catering to the audience that exists is somehow inherently evil. I mean, outreaching to other audiences is all well and good, but there is a big risk factor involved in that. And in the past, right through to today, it's still the case that the majority of the audience for most of these big attention-grabbing titles is white men. And it's nobody's fault, that's just the way it is, and it only makes sense to go after your majority demographic if you're trying to make money, if you're trying to reach a large audience, which these big high-profile ones do. So where's the problem exactly? Especially since newer surveys and so on that have been much trumpeted are suggesting that it's a 50-50 split in the audience now. And if you take that at face value and don't bother actually looking into it and how it splits out by game type and genre and so on, if you take that at face value, it rather suggests that we don't need to do anything, doesn't it? This idea that anyone who opposes these rather extreme ideologies can only be some kind of reactionary conservative is absolute bullshit. And if you look at the Gamergate demographics, they are mostly, very broadly, left libertarian. That's small L libertarian, not conservative financial libertarian. It's anti-authoritarian. And that seems to be where the crux of the argument is. On the one hand, you've got social justice warriors who tend to be left authoritarian, and on the other side of the argument you have Gamergaters who tend to be left libertarian, anti-authoritarian. So you've got people like Sarkeesian who want to basically impose change upon people from a top-down perspective, and then you've got people like Gamergate who, I'm having to speak broadly, who generally want to see bottom-up change. Nobody involved in these movements really, who's worth talking about is against change or diversity or whatever else. It's the means that's gone about, and it's the extremism of the ideology that's being pushed that's the problem, not diversity itself. And to say otherwise, and to say it's reactionary conservative gamers, is just, it's a straw man. It's absolute bullshit, and it's a way of trying to reframe the argument to demonize anyone who might oppose you, and it's crap. I don't think anyone blames Anita exactly for the extremism and the censorship and the bullshit and the criticism that isn't really criticism that's going on. I don't think anyone exactly directly blames Anita. It's just that she's become a totemic, emblematic figure of the problem in the same way that Jack Thompson did. Jack Thompson wasn't the only person who was a problem. It was the attitude that was a problem. But Thompson became this figurehead for the criticism that games were getting on basis of violence and blah, 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 blah. And in the same way, Sarkeesian is this totemic lightning rod figure who is getting kudos she doesn't deserve, is making criticism that isn't criticism, has done all kinds of things to make people upset. Her arguments are shit. She doesn't allow anyone to have any right of reply on her videos or forums, or blog, or website, or anywhere. She will not engage in discussion. She will not address any criticism. Instead, as we'll see later on, it just gets blown up into being conspiracy theories or some other bullshit nonsense in order to avoid talking about it. Or, you know, misogyny, my poor soggy knees, which it isn't. You know, it is possible for someone to hate you because you're a cunt, not because you have one. Alright? Good. Let's move on. Why are you taking trolls seriously? Why? 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 Haven't we known since Usenet that what you do with trolls is you ignore them? Why? Why? Ah! Look, I've been on the end of some pretty heavy harassment from people on your side of the fence, Miss Sarkeesian. The difference being that the people who've harassed and dogged my career, tried to get me blacklisted and everything else. I'm not going over the whole fucking thing again because it just gets me more wound up than I already am. But those people are not anonymous trolls. They're people with faces, names, careers. You know, if you're a social justice warrior and a harasser, you can get away with it. Nobody gives that much of a shit. But you're taking anonymous trolls seriously. Now, I'm sure in amongst the rest there are a few psychos because you've got a way higher profile than I do, and that's just going to happen. But to call all of this criticism misogyny is as ridiculous as it would be if I claimed that all the criticisms of me were down to misandry. It's not. It's down to what you say and what you do, as it pretty much is with me. It's not because you're a woman, it's because you're a fraudster, you're a liar, you're a cheat, because you don't allow any honest debate. You know, these are the reasons people are pissed off at you, not because you have a vagina. So it's not misogyny at all. At all. I'm sorry, Anita, that you do resemble that man-hating caricature in the way that you cherry pick, in the way that you misrepresent, in the way that you claim to be on a moral high horse, and yet indulge in the very kinds of behaviour you're supposedly saying are bad. I mean, you baiting Gamergate recently, or there was the artwork you stole, or there was the Let's Play videos you stole. You know, these are issues. These are problems, and the way you go about presenting your arguments is fundamentally dishonest, and you close off all criticism. It's not good. It's not good at all. Look, nobody worth caring about believes the shit about the shoes, but there are legitimate concerns about what the fuck you're doing with all that money you got given. You asked for $6,000, you got $160,000. You haven't even remotely gone anywhere near doing all your videos. You haven't really produced anything else. You've been jetting all over the place, getting awards you don't deserve. But what's the money being spent on? It's a little transparency, too much to ask for, really, here. It's a lot of money. A lot of people paid money into you. You got it under false pretenses of claiming to be a gamer. So, you know, I think people have a legitimate right to know what the fuck's gone on with it, where their money is, and maybe a refund. You know, that would be ethical. Good word. Ethical. Your talk here suffers from many of the same fundamental issues that people have criticised you over in your feminist frequency Tros versus Women videos, in that you strip things utterly of context, cherry pick, and present this as some kind of fait accompli, without seemingly bothering or being capable of understanding what you're taking it from or what the context is, or even understanding that games are fiction and not real. because you have claimed in the past that these presentations in games cause problems in real life, and that is the same arguments that Jack Thompson, etc. were making in the past, only they were talking about violence. So, yeah, this talk, same problems that your videos have, and basically all of your videos point straight down the line to not fact, but your opinion. And your opinion need not mean anything to anybody. It's just like your opinion, man. Why are people paying attention to you? Why are they taking it seriously? Why aren't they following the evidence? Why aren't they using logic and reason? I don't know. There's got to be some kind of echo chamber bubble thing going on here, with people mutually reinforcing weird, non-factual views, which you're contributing to. And the fact that you're not allowing any criticism, and nobody else is allowing any criticism, again, as we've seen in Gamergate with the mass deletions and censorship, that just reinforces your little bubble. You know, you need to invite and welcome opposing viewpoints, not ignore them. The presence of alleged conspiracy theories around you and their ridiculousness does not detract from the legitimacy and seriousness of serious criticisms being made of you. It's simply your attempt to deflect and dodge and shift away and reframe the argument, and not falling for it, sorry. And also picking on someone just because they make videos in a bathrobe, not cool. Yeah, you've had the piss taken out of you for your hoop earrings, making fun of other people for their sartorial choices, also not cool. And what is it with social justice warriors and hating hats? Never understood it. I don't know whether you're a real feminist or not, but we know you're not a gamer. I mean, you're on video saying as much, so that's inescapable. Why people keep ignoring this fact, I don't know. Since then, I think your knowledge has been gaining because you've obviously actually been studying games, but it's pretty apparent in a lot of them that you don't understand the paradigm or the games that you're examining, because just the things you say are so utterly ludicrous and relate not at all to the game that you're supposedly criticizing. I think you're getting better at that, so maybe you're becoming a gamer, but you certainly weren't when all this started. So, problem. I don't think you need to fake harassment. I think anyone who says anything, even remotely contentious, on the internet, or even things that aren't contentious, will get harassment. So I don't think you need to fake it. Some of the instances are a bit sus, but even so, I don't think you need to fake it. I think there's enough trolls. Why are you taking trolls seriously? Out there to give you more than enough material. What worries me is what I call synergistic trolling, which is where it pays you, in effect, to take trolls seriously, when any net veteran should know better, put it that way. So we have this weird situation where both you and the troll are both getting something out of the harassment. The troll gets to piss you off, get a reaction, get exposure, and gets their jollies off from doing so. You get to play the victim, you get more donations, you get to point at what these trolls have insincerely said and say, look, this is evidence of widespread misogyny, etc. in gaming, when all it really is some sociopathic twat on the end of a keyboard poking your buttons. But it pays you to take it seriously, so you treat it like they're sincere, like it's real, like it means anything. And that kind of synergistic trolling, and you're not the only person to do it by any means. Caroline Criado Perez and others have done it, and it seems like I am more attuned to seeing it in feminist discourse, but I'm sure it happens elsewhere as well. So it's not just you, but it is the aspect that worries me. Where is that feminist army? Well, I think you just answered your own fucking question, didn't you? You know how when a word gets overused, it stops having any real meaning? Misogyny. That's kind of getting that way. See, I always took it to mean hatred of women. Apparently it means everything, and therefore it means nothing. Stop using it, unless you mean it. given the established history of lying and misrepresentation, I don't think it was too big of a leap. I don't think it was too out there to find the bomb threats and so on suspect, as they're so extreme and so stupid and so unlikely to have any actual meaningful threat behind them, that you playing up to them became suspect. I mean, you have this history of doing this, of lying and misrepresenting. And lest we forget, the first people to contact the police department to check up on this were told, in no uncertain terms apparently, that no such reports had been filed. So that's what gave that legs. It's not deliberate misrepresentation or anything. And I still don't know if it's been settled one way or another, whether they were filed reports. We have two contradictory accounts, and we don't know which one's true. On balance of things, I've got to give you the benefit of the doubt. But you know, there's good reason people don't believe you, and you've only got yourself to blame for that. This false narrative that you've constructed about gamers, it is bullshit, but it is powerful bullshit. Nobody wants to be a sexist, nobody wants to be a misogynist, nobody wants to be racist or so on, and so people are constantly falling back and being unwilling to argue because you're presenting your case as though it were about equality and fairness and diversity and so on, when it really isn't. It's about enforcing a particular political vision on creative people, and that's basically why I'm against you, because I'm for free expression, and I want everybody to be able to make things the way that they want to, whether you think it's sexist or not. I want people like you to be able to make your own games, and I wish you'd fuck off and do your own shit, rather than trying to force everyone else to conform to your particular worldview. So that this presentation of gamers as being some kind of reactionary conservative force, it's bollocks. Go and look at the political compass tables and so on from Gamergate. Gamers want diversity, they want more mature storylines, they want more and better games. What they don't want is to be told that they're evil or misogynistic or racist or terrible or whatever for playing the games that they like. They don't want creators to feel constricted and fucked with when they want to make games that you find offensive. And your criticism, like I said before, just really comes down to your opinion. And why should we give a shit about your opinion? Other than for some bizarre reason, unlike previous moral panics, people within the industry seem to be taking you seriously, even though you have absolutely zero evidence for any of your claims. Let me stop you there for a second. Being anti-feminist is not being anti-woman. I know you like, probably, to go to dictionary definition of feminism, which is equality, but we have a perfectly good word for that, equality. And feminism hasn't been that since the 80s, maybe longer. So when someone's anti-feminist, it doesn't mean they're anti-woman. Maybe you should actually listen to what they're saying. That might be a good idea. So, victim blaming is a thorny issue, not as black and white as many people seem to like it to be. It isn't fair to blame the victim in a lot of circumstances, but there is such a thing as minimizing risk or understanding context, which is something I know you have trouble with. There are actions we can take that will increase or decrease our risk, and there are things we have to take on board and to understand that are going to happen when we open our mouths and say something controversial. So I'm opening my mouth and I'm saying something controversial, though it shouldn't be, about you, and I fully expect to get some blowback on Twitter and YouTube and elsewhere about it. Yeah, but I feel compelled to stand up and say something about the bullshit that you spread. And so I am tacitly accepting the fact that I'm going to get some blowback because of that. Now, when you stand up and you say controversial bullshit things about games, you must know that there's going to be some kind of blowback about it. In fact, it often seems like you're relying on that fact and then using it for more publicity. So, you know, you're tacitly accepting when you say these things that there's going to be some blowback about it. Now, it's not victim blaming, that's understanding the situation and understanding the consequences of one's actions and taking responsibility for the consequences of one's actions. So that's a bit different to victim blaming, in my opinion. Listen and believe. Oof, creepy. Really creepy. That's like saying just have faith. No. That's offensive to reason. I don't mean offensive in the way you mean offensive, in that you don't like it. I mean that it is counterfactual, counterlogical. It's just awful. That's how really, really bad things happen. That's how religions get started. And oh no, never listen and believe. Listen, but then doubt and confirm. That's the way we make progress. That's the way we invent things. That's how we find what works. Not by listening and believing, by checking and confirming what the hell is going on. She kind of wraps up around there, but let's cover a few things. Everyone gets harassment on the internet. Several studies, and bear in mind that all studies pretty much in this area are really badly done, with shitty sample sizes and shitty selection processes, but several sets of studies show that men are the primary recipients of abuse online, not women. Where there's a difference seems to be in how we react to it, in that women take it much more seriously and talk about it, and bring it up and go to the police and everything else, blah blah blah, whereas men tend to ignore it. Now, I don't know which way around that should be. Should women man up and ignore it, or should men girl down and report it and make a big fuss about it? I've been kind of experimenting with being a bit more open about the harassment and stuff that I've received, but it doesn't seem to garner that much sympathy. Because I'm a man, probably. I don't know. But yeah. No, I don't think you're out to destroy games per se. I do think that there is a problem with ideological agendas being brought into games media, and the threat that it represents to creativity. I would rather see everybody being able to make what they want and then succeeding or not in the marketplace of ideas. And that would be the way I would prefer things to shake down. I don't think this kind of top-down imposition and lying in order to try and force this agenda, or colluding in the way that media has, or supporting inmates who happen to all be into the same kind of political ideology. I don't think that's the way forward, and I think it's counterproductive. I think this whole Gamergate debacle and everything that's exposed is going to set back an agenda of equality and diversity, which is one I support. It's just not your tactics and your ways of going about it that I support. I just don't. I see it as a fundamentally dangerous and censorious and authoritarian way to go about things. Of course, I don't think you're genuine at all, Anita. I don't. I honestly don't. I don't think you're out to destroy games, but I think you're basically at heart a con artist. Well, we know your background in handwriting analysis and things that are just like this far away from pyramid schemes and the webinars and everything else. We've got you on record saying you're not a gamer, you don't like games, you didn't want to game, on video. So this appears to have been some kind of get-rich scheme, really, that's got out of control. And I wish people wouldn't take you so seriously. I wish we had decent critics who are actual critics in the sense of criticism rather than literary criticism, so that we could actually get somewhere with this. And I wish people wouldn't collude and work together in order to force an extreme version of this, because I want to see an actual, gradual, consensual change in games to become more mature, more diverse, and better made. But I want it to come from the bottom up, not the top down. So that speech did not impress me. Feminist frequency does not impress me. The whole cult of social justice does not impress me, because primarily I feel that it threatens social justice and doesn't help it. Anyway, that's that. Got that off my chest. Peace out.